I'm Pat McAfee, and I can't wait to go across the pond to listen to Across the Pod, fresh out of Wales. Special stuff. Cheers.
Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Eagles fan Cam McFarlane and Commanders fan Jarleth Eaton, who both return to the show as we rank our top 10 NFL rivalries of all time.
Yeah, all right. Don't get that. Oh wow! Oh, look at us! We've won 2 Super Bowls recently, and therefore we're the best.
We are the best.
No, you're not.
Cam discusses one of the more physical NFL rivalries.
It feels nasty. It feels horrible. It feels like it's a proper battle and people getting blown into pieces as they go in there.
Jarleth discusses an NFC East rivalry that is one for the ages.
When they go to the link for that game every year, I genuinely struggle to see a better atmosphere.
And I put my case forward for Packers against Vikings as we rank our top 10 list.
You get a Packers-Vikings game at US Bank Stadium. The skull's been done all around the stadium. You got the horn. What's not to love? What's not to love?
Hope you all enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, and today I have with me joining the show 2 returning guests, co-hosts of the White Noise Cricket podcast, 2 friends and fans of 2 NFL rivals. It's Cam McFarlane and Jarleth Eaton. Boys, good to have you on.
Yeah, good to be back. It's always good to be on and chat a little bit of football, and unfortunately I have to deal with the one below me, but other than that...
We've seen each other far too much for this early.
I know, yeah.
Year.
It's not fallen well, the fact that we were together for 3 days in London last week. So
yes, it's certainly lovely as always to see your face, Andy. As for you, dear, well, you know, it's sometimes we have to do the things that said to try us.
And there is our first rivalry to kick us off.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, don't forget this podcast is sponsored by Fantasy Game Day app, where you can use code Andy5 at checkout for money back off your first paid lineup. And before we start the episode, here's what happened on this day.
On this day, on May 26th, in 1961, the Denver Broncos were sold to a syndicate run by Gerald Phipps and Cal Coons. And in 2019, legendary former Packers quarterback Bart Starr passed away at the age of 85 years old. And the likes of Micah Parsons, Mark Anderson, Greg Lloyd, Tyreek Stevenson, and Jalen Johnson were all born.
Now, today's episode, we will be ranking our top 10 NFL rivalries of all time. If you weren't aware from the title of this episode, this will be a chance we're going to go through one of our customary top 10 episodes where we're each going to nominate what we think is some of the best NFL rivalries in history. And this is purely based on teams. We're not including player rivalries. We're not including coach rivalries. It's purely for the teams themselves. And we'll each go one by one until we have found our 10 nominees for this list, and then we will try and compile a list from 10 to 1 of what we think ultimately is the best rivalry in NFL history. Now, guests are always first, so Cam, as you were the first to arrive on the recording, I'll let you go first. What is your first nominee for this award?
Where do I start? That's always the toughest bit. Which one to start with? Like, I've got a few in here that I'm sort of thinking of, and I think for me, it's like, do I start with my team straight away and the one that I personally hate the most, rival-wise? And I think it'd be amiss of me not to do that. I think I'd be in the wrong if I didn't do that. So we're going to start off Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys. Just pure, unadulterated hatred. Like, going all the way back to 1989 and the Bounty Bowl, where they were convinced that they'd put a bounty on certain players' head for them to go and smash them, one of them being the kicker that previously played for the Eagles and then let him on. And then the brilliant quote from Buddy Ryan, who said, it would have been in our best interest to leave him out there because he was having a nightmare or something to that effect. So, yeah, that's the one I'm going to start with.
So just a quick one to interrupt this podcast episode after the recording was done. For most of these rivalries we mentioned today, I managed to get a fan of those teams involved who have been on the show previously to give their take on what the rivalry means to them. Not everyone responded, so some will be left blank, but for 2/3 of these, we have had previous guests on the show talk about the rivalries. And our first one is former guest Steve McGuinness, who is an Eagles fan, talking about this rivalry.
The year is 1991. I've just watched the Philadelphia Eagles, after losing in 3 first-round playoff games, fire arguably the best coach we've had since I started following football. I've seen Buddy Ryan, with a winning record, be fired because he lost 3 times in the playoffs. In that same period, I've watched the rest of our division, the Redskins, the Giants, and the Cowboys, win Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Within a year, the Cowboys have won 2. Then they've won 3. Then, somehow, they've managed to turn what should be, a franchise-defining moment into a personal series of battles between the owner and the head coach as to who's the best, who's the most important, who made this team win. We made that team win. The Eagles made the Cowboys win. We fired the coach that turned around the franchise and that gave them 2 hard games a season. We gave them division titles. And then we sat around and we watched and we waited. And the revival never came. The 90s. We got to 2005 and we made a Super Bowl. And we blew it. And all the time, we hadn't won a Super Bowl. But they hadn't won for a long, long time. 10, 15, 20, 25 years. But they held it over us. And they never stopped reminding us. The Giants had the good sense to shut up. But the Cowboys never stopped telling us. We won all these Super Bowls. We won everything. You've won nothing. So when finally in 2018 we broke that streak, that curse that had been lifted, that had been hanging over our heads since the days of Buddy Ryan, since the days of everyone before him. Finally, I could hate them a little less, because now I could pity them, because now I could see that where we were, at the top of the division, winning Super Bowls, competing, winning playoff games, was where they desperately wanted to be, where they had to be, but where they would never be again, not until Jerry Jones dies. So, what does that rivalry mean to me? Right now it means Dallas. You. We won. We won twice. And you're now 30 years in the past and no closer to winning anything.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I had kind of written down as one of my kind of nominees. You think about, I always remember I went to an Eagles game and I saw a guy in a Cowboys jersey, and I just couldn't believe there was a guy in an Eagles tailgate in a Cowboys jersey. That just shows the kind of hatred that they have between the two teams, and how shocked I was the fact that there was someone wearing a Cowboys jersey. I mean, historically,
was he on top of a bonfire by any chance?
he may have been post game. You never know. I didn't see what happened after that. this is one of the ones, historic rivalry. I mean, the first game was in September 30th, 1960, and the Cowboys do lead the series 75-59. And I kind of wish we had more of, there might be a theme of the episode, but more of like more NFC Championship between these two.
Like big playoff games, like big games that matter. Because, like you say, it is one where they do lead the series, but let's be honest, they haven't been to a Super Bowl in forever. And
I've never seen them. I've never been alive.
But it's nothing that's ever mattered.
I've never been alive to see the Cowboys make a Super Bowl. That's how long it's been.
Exactly.
So that's all you need to know.
And that's where you can say they lead the overall. Might lead the overall head-to-head, but where it actually matters, Super Bowls and rings, that's where we lead it. In recent times.
Yeah, all right. Just don't get that. Oh wow! Oh, look at us! We've won 2 Super Bowls recently, and therefore we're the best.
We are the best.
No, you're not. Never will be. You don't even lead the amount of. You're bottom of the league. You were the last team to win in the NFC East to Super Bowl, man. Come on.
You're only as good as your last one, mate.
It's been that long for us. I've never seen us make the Super Bowl at all.
Yeah,
I've been alive nearly over 30 years. But yeah, no, I don't disagree with it. But unfortunately, I think out of all of the rivalry games in the NFC East, I think that obviously the Cowboys one is strongest, right? But I think that the Philly versus Dallas games, especially in recent years, as them two have always been towards the top end of the division. It's always been, it's going to be Cowboys versus Eagles for the division in particular, certainly in the last 5 to 6 years mainly. Obviously, I know the Commanders were there or thereabouts beforehand, a couple of years ago. And there's the odd occasion with the Giants getting in the Commanders as well. But mainly, certainly over the last 10 years, it has been Dallas, Philly for the NFC East. And in particular, when they go to the Link, AT&T Stadium, the atmosphere is amazing, but when they go to the Link for that game every year, I genuinely struggle to see a better atmosphere created inside the NFC East than when Philly hosts Dallas. It is a massive rivalry, huge.
I mean, you think about, you get that game in the night game, the lights are coming down, you get the Eagle come on before the game, the real life Eagle. It's amazing. And I'm going to make you feel a bit old here. I don't know, your exact ages, but when the Cowboys last reached a conference championship, I was 1 year old. And fun fact as well, the last time, the year before that, when they won a divisional round game, I was 1 day old. So that shows kind of I'm 30 now. So actually, just see some breaking news on my phone is that Odell Beckham is in the Giants building for a physical today. They're really trying to
running it back in upstate, in sort of downtown New Jersey, are we?
Yeah, wow.
Charlotte,
what they really need is it. Well, so I was just going to say, what they really need, the Giants at the moment, is a washed up wide receiver. No disrespect to Odell, he did what he did, but nowadays he's been out of the game for too long. Come on now.
He's never been the same since he went on that boat trip, has he? Let's be honest.
Well, no, he won a Super Bowl, though, man. He did win a Super Bowl with the Rams, so
but
he missed you.
They'd have won it with literally any other wide receiver in the NFL playing his position.
Well, they did with Cooper Kupp, didn't they, that year with the triple crowd? Yeah.
I will say that he before the injury, he was on a trajectory to get that Super Bowl MVP. He was that first half before the injury. He was he's arguably the best player on the field that first 2 quarters. And I do as well. We had a previous episode with Karan Anil where we went through our top 10 most overrated players in NFL history. Find out on that episode where we ranked OBJ in that top 10. Jarleth, over to you for your first nominee of best rivalries in NFL history.
That is a nice segue. Like that, really do. I'm also going to go and stick with Dem Boys, but I'm not going to put the Washington Commanders in there because even though it's a very historical rivalry and it's probably up there with one of the greatest in the NFL, it just has felt recently like it's been a bit one-sided because, well, you all know what's happened to Washington. Dan Snyder decided that he wanted to ruin one of the greatest franchises, or one of the Royce Regal franchises of the 90s. Thanks for that, Dan. He does it now in London now, doesn't he? Might go and try and see if I can find him on his yacht in the Thames. Who knows? Right. I am going to stick with the Cowboys, and I'm going to go with a rivalry that simmered in the 70s, was big in the 80s, massive in the 90s, and has now started to become huge again because they often seem to meet either in the wild card or the divisional round of the playoffs. It is the 49ers versus the Cowboys. It's absolutely huge. Back in the 90s,
that's on my list as well.
Yeah, back in the 90s, the Cowboys and the Niners, for 3 straight years, made the NFC Championship game, and the winner of that went on to win the Super Bowl at a time when the NFC won, I think, 13 or 14 straight. I can't remember exactly, but they won 13 or 14 straight. That game is massive. You saw the amount of fans. Now, look, the San Francisco 49ers fans, they travel, and they travel well. They always have done. But you saw in particular when they went to AT&T a few years ago, when they went to Jerry World and went there for the wildcard game, and the amount of fans that took over that building was just sensational. And again, you saw it when the Cowboys went to Levi's in the divisional round the following season, and the amount of Cowboys fans that travelled. There are fans of those teams everywhere. And those two sides, in particular in the 80s and the 90s, it's starting to simmer a little bit again now because they always seem to be meeting in the playoffs. But in particular in the 80s and 90s, those two sides were bloody stacked. And they ran the NFC between them for about 4 or 5 years. And so for me, it is possibly one of the greatest interconference rivalries of the NFL. There's a couple more that I'll throw in there, depending on what you guys say. But certainly, Niners Cowboys, for me, has to make the list.
Hey, Paul Redmond here from Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. What does the Cowboys and 49ers rivalry mean to me? To me, it means big-time football. It means the playoffs. It means deciding which NFC team gets to go to the Super Bowl. So often that's been the case. And yeah, a real rivalry born in the postseason, be it from the 80s, the catch, the 3 consecutive NFC championship games in the 90s. It's more recently in the last few years, we've had a couple of instances of the Cowboys and the Niners meeting in the playoffs. And it just screams to me big stars, big moments, monumental plays, and the sport at its highest level. When I think of the rivalry, recently not been too much of a rivalry because the Niners have owned the Cowboys, sadly. But it's a lot of good memories for me, for sure. Recently, even in the regular season games, relatively recently, biggest one for me is probably Tony Romo playing with his punctured lung, leading the Cowboys to a win over the 49ers in overtime at Candlestick Park back in 2011. But yeah, I think it's a rivalry that's defined the NFC for sure, and no doubt there'll be many more additions to come in the postseason over the next few years.
Yeah, it was like with Cam as well. It was one of the ones I had kind of in my list of rivalries, and it was for that 90s rivalry. And it's one that even to this day, fans who weren't even around or were very young when the peak 90s era of them two going at each other in the playoffs, even now you got Niners fans who are brought up to hate the Cowboys and vice versa.
Well, doesn't that everybody?
It all stems back to the 90s era.
Basically, if we run through this and everybody's someone against the Cowboys.
Yeah, everybody hates the Cowboys. Quite rightly so.
I will say that this will upset you guys and a lot of people listening. I did a video on this channel where I went through reasons I would support every NFL team if my team no longer existed. Do check it out if you haven't already. But at the end, I went through kind of the top 5 teams I would consider. The Cowboys were second in my top 5. So I don't have the hatred that a lot of people do.
Well,
but I'm also aware that if I was around for the 90s when they kept winning, they kept reaching Super Bowls, I might think differently. But in my time, they never really have been a threat. They never won. They haven't won anything. As I said before, they last reached the conference championship when I was 1. And yeah, so I can also see why fans hate them. I can definitely see why. I just don't have that hatred.
Well, I think you would support them, Andy, because of your football team, right? it took Liverpool nearly 20 or 30 years to be relevant again, from when they last won the league in 1990 to when they did it in 2020. That's not me trying to be disrespectful, but that is just me saying a fact, right? Before Cam decides to go at me on this one, right?
I will never at you for having a dip at Liverpool, I'll be honest.
But my point is that in the 80s and 90s, Liverpool won everything, and everybody hated them for the fact that they always won, right? And that was the similar thing with the Cowboys, and to an extent the Niners as well. Really, I think in the 80s, although I don't think there's as much hatred for the Niners as there is for the Cowboys.
Oh, I hate the Niners. Absolutely hate the Niners.
I know you do, but that's
mine's more of recent times, though.
Yes.
On that.
Yeah, but I think that's why I think you would pick the Cowboys out of that, because it's like Cowboys fans are like England fans in a way, England men's football team fans. Every 2 years or every year they just say it's their year and all the rest of it, and every single time it never happens. So I get it. I want to shout out one game in particular in this rivalry, of course, 1981, the NFC Championship game. One of the greatest plays in playoff history in the NFL. It's repeated every single time, again and again and again. Montana to Clark, touchdown, ball game. I've actually genuinely got shivers down the spine just thinking about it. And I don't even support either one of the teams. Obviously, as a Washington fan, you're brought up to hate the Cowboys. But if you watch that game as a whole, it was just a stunning game of football. And then that drive from Montana at the end alongside Clark, it was just fabulous. And, long may it continue. I want to see more games between these two because they just hate each other. They hate each other.
I think as well, the fact that it might be the only one we got on this list where there's a statue outside the stadium involving a moment between the two teams. I mean, it's an incredible moment, and it's one of the iconic images when you get the NFL. I know a lot of people say that if you had what the NBA do in terms of having the picture of, I forget the player's name, but you got a picture
Jerry
of an
West.
Yeah, that's a picture of the NBA logo. I do believe if you had that in the NFL, that could be the picture they use for the NFL, is that catch from Dwight Clark. I do believe that might be what they use. But, incredible rivalry, and he absolutely one to put on the list. And I will say before we carry on as well that I think by recent times, social media activity, I think the Cowboys are Arsenal. But that is
not a bad shout, to be fair, mate. Not a bad shout.
Arsenal are actually getting close to winning things, at least.
It's no common anything. I mean, we are recording this before the season ends, but it might come out after the season ends. So I could be sitting here mocking Arsenal, but they could be, by the time this podcast,
they're not winning this league title, mate. You'll be absolutely grand.
No, there's no chance. But you never know. I think that Everton game, if Everton could be that, they're the chance for Arsenal. If they could get a result out of City. They're the only team I can see on City's schedule that I think they could actually, with the form they're in, they could cause some problems. And I don't see him beating. I can see him maybe beating Atletico Madrid. I just don't see him beating Bayern or PSG. If they get to the final, I don't see either of those teams losing to Arsenal. But we'll move on back to this kind of football across the pond. And my first nominee, and what is, for every game I looked at, I kind of looked at the history of the game and when the game was first played. This might be the oldest one I've got. I think it might be, actually. I've gone for an NFC North rivalry between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. The first game being...
my next pick, man.
Has to be.
Sniping you.
You can't not have a rivalry list and not have this game on. Yeah. As you said, the oldest game in the league. It's just brilliant.
I mean, 1921 was the first game they had between each other, and the Packers do lead the series 109 to 89-6. A lot of it's way before my time, but I'm looking either at kind of my era of watching the NFL. You think about moments you've had recently. You think about the NFC Championship in 2010. DJ Cutler quit on his team. Aaron Rodgers, his continual dominance over the Bears and their hatred towards him, and him going, "I own you. I still own you."
Yeah.
And then recently, the Bears returning the favour this season, both regular season and playoffs, comeback wins at Lambeau. Bears ending a 15-year playoff streak. There's so much rivalry. I mean, Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, historic stadiums. The fact they played pre-war as well, I think, is always, and they're still that big a rival. I think for me, they got to be in this top 10 for me. And it's such a historic rivalry. NFC North, I think in general, is quite a historic division. A lot of rivalries. Or I do think the Lions. No one hates them. Everyone hates the other three teams. I think the Lions are kind of the one that no one really hates in that division. But yeah, these two teams. I think the fact as well that when they had their centenary season, they scrapped the rule that they usually have of the reigning champions playing the first game at home. They went for Bears against Packers as the first game of the centenary year, which shows for me how deep and rooted this rivalry is.
Hello, it's Luke Campbell here, occasional guest on the Across the Pod podcast. Big rivalries. Well, as a Bears fan, obviously the Packers is massive. There's no real easy way to describe it except that I have a pathological hatred of anything wearing that shirt, or indeed any kind of cheesehead. And you know, I've been a fan of the team for 40 years now, and I still have that same hatred of anything Packers-ish. I don't even want to go to Lambeau Field. That's how much I really hate them. If somebody offered me free tickets to go to Lambeau Field, unless it was like for the Bears to win the division there, I'm not sure I would go. Honestly, I'm just not sure I could handle it. I think I would just be, I'd honestly, too difficult. But ultimately, we just hope they finish bottom every single year. And, you know, while we don't wish ill on them, we hope that each one of their star players has a non-trivial injury that isn't career-ending, but is definitely season-ending. And that, again, seems a little bit harsh, but I know they feel the same about us. So let's just be honest about it. We don't like each other, and it's great. Thanks. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I fully agree. I think it's one that had to be on the list. It's just one of those games that every time feels massive every time they play it.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to other amazing events. Like obviously, you look at the pass to Cobb in 2013 to basically give the Packers the North and kick the Bears out the playoffs on 4th and 8. I mean, again, you look at this season. You know, the Bears towards the back end of last season were absolutely incredible, and that play, you know, when Caleb threw it on 4th down, I can't remember who caught the pass, but to basically turn it in. Just take the game into overtime. They had that huge bomb down at DJ Moore for the win, I think it was, and then obviously they won the game in the wild card round as well. So you know those again. I think that, and we know from our WhatsApp chat that there is a huge Bears Packers rivalry. The two boys that are Bears and Packers fans will go at each other throughout the entire season. Those two, again, another one. We could probably just clip this for the whole show. These two hate each other. And like it's a great rival, and as well, it's one of those games that, for me at least, anyway, no matter what's going on throughout the season, no matter what else is happening, it's the one game probably outside of big rivalry games for my team that I circle on the calendar. I want to see when the Packers play the Bears both times, because no matter what happens, you can throw form out the window because anything could happen in particular in that game, I think.
Absolutely. And I think for the Bears, I mean, they had 4 or 5 wins in 2024, but their season was completely, their Super Bowl was beating the Packers in that final week of the season. Yeah. Albeit it was against backups most for, I think, 3 quarters, but even so.
I was very happy. I was very happy because it meant that we didn't have to go to the link until the championship game. we could go to Tampa Bay and actually maybe potentially win a playoff game.
I mean, I think as well the fact that when I kind of was planning the episode, it was this game I thought of when I was thinking of planning the episode. So yeah, worthwhile contender, and yeah, I think you can thank the Packers and Bears a lot for that run, because that Commanders run you had might be the best season you've had. Well, probably the best you've had in a long time, and might be the best you've had in the next 10 years.
Very long time. The first time since 1991 that we made a champ game. You know, So yeah, cheers Chicago for beating Green Bay, because it meant that they were 7 and we were 6. It meant that we went to Tampa, we went and beat Detroit, and then obviously we got slapped by, no doubt about it, and it pains me to say this obviously, but we got slapped by the best team of the whole season, because obviously they went and won the dance, and they won it quite comfortably in the Eagles. You know, they absolutely battered them. So, you know, fair play to them. Like, there are some times where you can't just, you just have to tip the slipper and go, yeah, they gave us a lesson, and they did. But I'll take a run to the championship game. Simple as that.
That phrase I love, tip the slipper. I've never heard that before, but that is an amazing.
That's a new one for me as well. I was expecting Cat, to be honest.
Tip of the slipper, mate. You got to give him a tip of the slipper.
Love it. Right, Cam, for your second nominee, and what is the 4th of our 10 overall, which rivalry are you putting forward?
I've got a few here, and I was trying to sort of decide. I want to go somewhere that we've not been already, so I don't want to touch the Cowboys or the Niners or anyone like that. So I think this one always feels big, and it's always one that, regardless of where they are in the season, always feels massive. Steelers Ravens, big game. Every time it feels nasty, it feels horrible. It feels like it's a proper battle, and people getting blown into pieces as they go in there. So yeah, I think that one, like, you look at it back to like 2008 AFC Championship game when the Steelers went on and won the Super Bowl that year, but playing the big rivals in the Ravens in the championship game was one of those moments that it just felt huge and iconic.
It is. For me, I think it's the AFC's best rivalry, and I don't think it's particularly close, if I'm being brutally honest. I think that there are so many standout moments in this game that you can just think of off the top of your head. You know, again, you look back on, you know, like you said, that championship game, you know, there's so many incredible moments in that game. Was it then that they won the division, didn't they? Was it Christmas? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was Christmas Day, where Antonio Brown fights the goal line, breaks the plane. Mike Tirico's unbelievable call. That might win them the division, and it did. You know,
the immaculate extension.
The immaculate extension, very, very good, my friend. Very good. It's just, you know, everything about it is just a stunning rivalry, and it is a proper rivalry that you don't get that often now in the NFL, I don't think, anyway, where, like you say, the two teams can't stand each other. And it also goes back to the point before the Cleveland Browns were the Cleveland Browns now. It's obviously because the Ravens became the Browns. The Browns became the Ravens when Art Modell and the move. I'm not going to go down that road. I don't want Cleveland fans kidding me. But obviously, that point, the Browns-Steelers rivalry was absolutely massive, and it's just stemmed from that now. It's historical. It's brilliant, and again, it's one of those games that you circle. You know, when NBC go for Sunday Night Football, or when ESPN put the Monday Night Football schedule out, if a Steelers-Ravens game is not in prime time, something's gone massively wrong because it's huge.
Yeah,
massively. I mean, we just talked about, you know, Packers-Bears being, you know, since 1920s, and this, as you pointed out, Jarleth, you know, due to the move, it's only been around since 96, but there's already been so many good memories. Think about 2008 AFC Championship. You had the, I forgot, he works on TV now, Clark, his hit on the...
Yeah, Ryan Clark. Yeah.
Ryan Clark, yeah. That hit he had in the AFC Championship, sent him to hospital. I forget what year it was, but you had Mike Tomlin stepping into the field to interfere.
Yeah, it was 2013, that, wasn't it?
Was that Thanksgiving?
Jones run around him.
Was it Thanksgiving, I think, wasn't it? You remember he says me correctly?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But even just going into last season, you had, week 18, a Tyler Loop missed kick, won the Steelers the division.
My God. You know what? You just completely forget that, don't you? I just completely forgot that.
With these things, you try to think back on all the moments you can remember, and you forget about what's just gone.
That was that final play of the season, wasn't it? Final play of the regular season, misses the field goal. Sorry, misses the field goal. after Lamar had thrown an absolute dime down the field as well to get them in position, and it's just mental. And then again, a couple of years ago in the playoffs, Ravens Steelers was the big game chosen by Prime, and for them to get that game is massive, by the way, and shows what the direction the NFL is going in TV wise. But also the fact that the Ravens were basically comfortably winning that game. Steelers came back a little bit, but again, you saw the passion, you saw the intensity of that game. It's huge. It's an amazing rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Now, Jarleth, for your next nominee, which game are you picking?
Right. Now, I've got two here, both from the AFC. And I'm not quite sure where to go, if I'm being brutally honest. Because do I pick one that for us is historical in the sense of these two sides would this? Well, it's a quarterback matchup, right? Both of these are a quarterback matchup. And I don't know whether to go for the historical side of things or to go for the newer side of things. And that's where my brain is. But I am going to go with historics, and I'm going to go with history. And I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts against the New England Patriots. Because when Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were at each other during the early 2000s, don't tell me you didn't think that game was a rivalry. It was historic. Watch the two, possibly the two. Well, obviously Brady's the GOAT, we know that. But for me, at least, Peyton Manning is the greatest quarterback to play in the regular season. Certainly in my era, Dan Marino might have a stronger case to make. But certainly, there you go, on the wall. But certainly in my era, the best regular season quarterback has always been Peyton Manning. I'm not saying the playoffs, because I think he's choked too often to me to be considered him amongst the true greats of the game. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a Hall of Fame. He's got 2 rings. Happy days to him. But when those two met in the AFC Championship game, I think, was it 2006? I think it was the 2006 AFC Championship game before the Colts won their first Super Bowl. That game in particular was unbelievable. Colts won it 41-38, if memory serves me correctly. I'm just having a quick look now. Yeah, 38-34, sorry, excuse me. The Colts were done 21-3 in that game. And the two of them always seemed to meet. They always seemed to meet, and it always meant something. And then that then sort of transpired over to those teams, because you look at, in particular, those New England Patriots sides, and you look at obviously, the likes of Marvin Harrison playing for the Indianapolis Colts, and on the other side, Randy Moss potentially playing for the Patriots and all that sort of stuff. You look at tight end Dallas Clark against Gronk and all that sort of stuff. It was brilliant. I don't think the rivalry still burns as brightly as it did, but certainly for the first part of the noughties and into the 2010s, that game was massive. And I think I'd go with that slightly over another one, but I may pick it later if you two don't pick it. But 100%, even though there's no big game now, even though it doesn't feel as big as it used to, I still think there's a big rivalry there between the Colts and the Patriots for our era of the NFL, because I think that, because again, the Patriots and the Colts fans are always fighting amongst each other to get into the AFC Championship game and then trying to get to the Super Bowl. There was that ridiculous stat, wasn't there? Towards the front end of 2000. I think it was 2000 and I'm trying to think now. From 2004, I think, to 2015, maybe even longer than that. Yeah, 20. Yeah, no, 20. I'm trying to think now. Actually, I think it's 2004 to 2020, or the 2019 season. There was only one Super Bowl, I think, that didn't feature Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or Big Ben Roethlisberger, which is just ludicrous. The only one I can think of before that one was Flacco's Super Bowl in '47. Again, I could be wrong, but there's that ridiculous stat from Super Bowl 38 to Super Bowl 50. Only one Super Bowl did not feature Brady, Manning, or Big Ben, and that's why I think that Colts Patriots in particular deserves a spot on the list.
Hey everyone, Sky's the Limit here for the Across the Pod podcast, where Andy Davis is looking at the NFL's greatest rivalries. And of course, the purpose of me being here is to talk about the Patriots. Now, one of the, I guess it defined the 2000s, was the Pats-Colts rivalry between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. And quite simply, the Pats 9 times out of 10 come out on top. But those 2 conference championship games are the ones that stand out. There was the one in the 2003 season where the Pats had 4 picks. Ty Law with 3 of them on Peyton Manning, and that sort of defined how corners could then go on to play the position, and the aggression sort of came out of that with contact at the line of scrimmage. And we also know the Colts had a big comeback in the 2006 playoffs when they overcome a big deficit and then went on to win that Super Bowl. But I think for the most part, Brady did outduel Manning. They are 2 of the best to ever do it, but of course, Brady is the GOAT. And then in the later years, we did have the Deflategate scandal, but I think we saw that with the Pats beating the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, #1 ranked defense, and with the fact that a lot of Colts players came out and said that it was millions of pounds wasted, including Pat McAfee. Really and truthfully, we do dominate this rivalry more. Maybe the Josh McDaniels snub thought would reignite it, but no, quite simply, Pats over Colts, but go back and watch those old classic games, especially the 2003 and 2006 playoff games that I mentioned, if you want to watch some old school, real, proper football. All right, enjoy the episode, and all the best, Andy.
I agree. I mean, I've seen in recent times Gronkowski and Edelman talking on Edelman's podcast about the Flakegate, and Gronk to this day hates the Colts. He believed they kind of were trying to find any excuse for why they didn't win that game. I think the Flakegate certainly adds to that rivalry. I think one of the most historic moments in recent NFL history, in that game between them 2, and even you mentioned Manning against Brady. It's the Ronaldo against Messi. It's the Federer against Nadal or Djokovic. It's the league. It's the sport's most iconic duo. I don't think we'll ever get, because to have 2 players in the same conference playing every year or most years in the AFC Championship or divisional round, to have at the time they were the best 2 quarterbacks. Certainly them 2 and Aaron Rodgers were the best in the league, and every year have these iconic quarterbacks battling out, trying to make a Super Bowl. And the narrative for years and years, Brady kept beating Manning, and Manning finally got his chance. He won, and I think, it's an historic rivalry, player-wise as well as team. And I think, whilst maybe he's not got the history of maybe other ones we've mentioned so far, I think for that, those narratives it brought up, for the duo, the quarterback duel that we had, it's a great selection. I've not thought of it, but it's an absolutely worthy selection. It really is.
One of my all-time favourite plays ever occurred in the Colts Patriots. Ever remember the Colts catastrophe, where they try and snap the ball where half the right side of the line go that way, and McAfee's there going trying to move it across. It's absolutely sensational. It's one of the funniest plays, and then you've got Bill Belichick going, decline it because we're going to go and score a touchdown, and he did. Really, it's still a funny moment. It's one of the worst trick plays I've ever seen, and I've seen the Commanders do some bad things on the field. But that was one of the worst trick plays, if not the worst trick play I've ever seen. Fantastic,
amazing stuff. Well, I've got to give my second and what is my final nominee. I've still got one left. Ignore me. Because I'm going to give one of you 2 the final selection, because there would be 9 after you both give 3. So a lot of mine have been picked. I had the Ravens against Steelers. I had Cowboys against Eagles. Niners, Cowboys. So there's a couple that I kind of thinking of, and I don't want to go for the same one as I had before. And okay, so I'm gonna go. It's kind of a similar trajectory to yours, Jarleth, in terms of player duels. More so one moment more than necessarily years and years of these 2 players going at it. But it's a rivalry that even to this day, this season especially, had a real importance on their games in the playoffs. And when I say this quote, you'll know exactly what game I'm referring to. I'm the best corner in the game. You try me with a side receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. I'm going to go for Seahawks Niners. It kind of
massive.
It only started in 1976 when the Seahawks got their franchise, but I think you think about the 2010s, the Legion of Boom, the Colin Kaepernick-led Niners, Jim Harbaugh, how every year that was such a big thing. And I know Niners fans, I want to shout out Paul Hope from 49er Faithful UK, regular on his show. He only became a fan during that era, and he hates the Seahawks more than any other team, more than the Cowboys, more than the Cardinals, more than the Rams. No one hates the Cardinals.
Can't hate the Cardinals because it just gives you 2 wins every single year with them, so it's fine. Apart from when they have Carson Palmer at quarterback, because he helped me with my fantasy championship that year. So thanks, mate.
Well, Larry Fitz, of course, Larry Fitz.
Yeah, Kurt Warner and all the rest of it. Probably through.
But no, like that is sort of now stemmed into kind of what we see now is the fact that it's kind of two. I think personally, these are two of the best 5 teams in the NFC, and I do believe we'll see. I think we'll see one of these 2 teams playing in the NFC Championship next year. And this is the rivalry that you see, particularly you see games at Lumen Field, how loud the Seahawks fans are, how well traveled the Niners fans are, how well they travel to games. When you get the 2 fans together, I wouldn't say it's fierce. Like I remember seeing Brown Steelers fans come on, and one of the Browns fans getting cold chucked at him. You see Cowboys play the Eagles sometimes, but I don't think this is that kind of rivalry. But the kind of noise you get, the kind of hatred I think a hatred and a mutual respect. I don't believe it's like an aggressive hatred. I think it's more we're kind of jealous of you, you're jealous of us. It's a rivalry that I think is great. I don't think it's top 3 or anything like that, but I do believe it's one that should get a mention because of that 2010s era, and even nowadays it's kind of grown back into one of the most important games in the year in the NFC. Especially if the Niners keep all their players healthy this year, I think it will once again be one of the most important games of the year.
Hi there, across the pod fans. Paul Hope, 49er Faithful UK. Andy has asked me to join today to explain what the Seahawks rivalry means to me as a Niners fan. My journey began in 2012 when I discovered this wonderful sport of the NFL, and I decided to become a Niners fan. It was at the peak of the Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll era, and the Seahawks were that final boss that we just couldn't beat. They won 11 out of 12 games against us, and that 2013 NFC Championship game is forever burned into my memory. I hated Richard Sherman up until he joined the Niners, and I just can't explain enough how much the Seattle Seahawks are my biggest rival. I know most Niners fans watching this would say that it's the Cowboys or the Rams, but this one is the biggest game of the season. As soon as the schedule is released, it is the game that I look for. It's the one I circle on the calendar. Now, thankfully, the Niners have had more success in recent years. That 2022 wildcard win was the most points we'd ever scored against Seattle. Brock Purdy seemed to have their number. And I know what Seahawks fans are thinking watching this one. Yes, we all know how last season ended, but the Niners did win in week 1. So it is something that I'm clinging on to. But Andy, thanks for having me on, buddy. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I'm excited for the season starting. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And all that is left for me to say is stay safe. Go Niners.
You've got no chance of that.
No,
You've got no chance.
Players healthy.
What Niners staying healthy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got more chance of flying to the moon, mate, than the Niners staying healthy. But no, I'll let you go in a second, Cam. But just to say, I do agree with you completely. I think this is probably the best rivalry in the NFL currently right now, purely and simply because these 2 sides are so relevant. And you mentioned the NFC Championship game. That was the de facto Super Bowl, wasn't it? Let's be honest about it. We knew at the time Broncos were never going to get that. And it's the same way when the Seahawks played the Rams in this championship game. And obviously prior to that, they absolutely smoked the Niners in the divisional round. But again, that game between the Seahawks and the Rams was the Super Bowl. We knew that coming in. But what was really, I think, what will really stoke this rivalry even more was the fact that obviously the Seahawks won the big dance this year, and they won it at the Niners home stadium. Yeah. That will piss them off. But I agree with you. It needs to be on there.
Yeah, it was on my list as well.
So we're into our kind of the back end of the list now. We're into our 7th nominee, and this comes in the form of Cam McFarlane. Cam, which game are you putting forward for our next nominee?
See, you picked your last one off a moment involving a certain player, and it leads quite nicely into my next one, which includes the same player in another big moment, and that is Broncos Raiders. And Aqib Talib snatching Michael Crabtree's chain in the middle of the game.
Interesting pick, my friend.
Yeah, so obviously big old AFL sort of rivalry, AFC Championship games have passed. Like, it's one of those games that's been there for a long time. But that hatred, you can see it on the field when you see players going at each other like they were, snatching his chain off him. Like, it just feels memorable. And it's one of those games that, again, even though, like, yes, the Broncos have been better in the last season we've just seen, but up until that, both of them have been shite for a while, let's be honest. And even so, it always still feels like a big, meaningful game when they rock up and play each other.
Yeah, don't disagree with that. But there was a game that I thought you were going to go for in the AFC West, but I didn't think it'd be that one. But now that you've mentioned it,
there's another one that's also on my list, which I think you're probably thinking of as well. But yeah,
I'm not going to pick it though. I'm not going to pick it. But there will be. But one of the teams that I think you're going to pick potentially, I'm picking next. So that's another issue. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Broncos Raiders is great. And like you say, snatching the chain and all the rest of it. The two of them again can't stand one another. They're in the same division as well. We love an interdivision rivalry as well. So yeah, quite happy with that. No issues with that at all.
No, I agree. Jarleth, over to you for your next nominee.
Yeah, this is my final pick, and I am thinking with this one that this is more of a modern rivalry, but it's a rivalry that I think we are going to see for the next 10 to 15 years. It's Joshua versus Patrick. It's the Bills versus the Chiefs. Those two sides do not like each other because of what happened. Again, I know it's a very, very early stages of a rivalry, but certainly in the 2020s, for people who only just got into the NFL, maybe, or for us who've been watching it for years, it's still a game that, again, it's one of those that I circle on the calendar and make sure that I'm watching it live because there's nothing better.
Still young, it's always a shootout. It's always good fun. And we know we're going to see it for more and more years. I'm with you.
Yeah, I just think that the teams don't like each other. There's obviously the classiness of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes whenever they're on the field, and obviously Josh can do it in the regular season, but can't do it in the playoffs against Patrick. And Patrick is as we always say, is the Thor. He is that sort of final boss character. Look, obviously you go back to arguably the greatest divisional playoff game in history. When with that final 2 minutes where there were 4 lead changes and then it went to overtime, and the game that has changed the NFL because now both teams get a chance to possess the ball because obviously nobody's allowed to play defense. Also as well, when Tyler Bass misses the kick wide right, when Buffalo, as Jim Nantz eloquently put it, what did he say? I can't remember exactly what he said now, but it was like wide right. The 2 most dreaded words in Buffalo have surfaced again. Jim Nantz doing that, and then obviously the championship game, the previous year, this year, where Josh had some pressure on him on 4th down, Spags calling that brilliant blitz, and then the Kincaid dropping the ball. There's just so many moments, and they seem to be playing each other every single bloody year because they're always winning their divisions. Yeah, and if that's what's going to happen, I'm here for it. I want to see Josh versus Patrick multiple times. I know this isn't a personality rivalry, but it's now spreading into the teams. The teams don't like one another. The fans don't like one another because they always say that their quarterback's better, even though at the moment, and I stress at the moment, there's no debate, in my opinion, that Mahomes is better than Allen because he's done it, and Allen has never been to a Super Bowl, So, but again, it's one of those games, and either you circle on the calendar because I'm here for it. It's for me in the 2020s. It's the best rivalry in the NFL, and history has its place in sport. But currently, it's the it's the biggest game I look forward to every single year, bar none.
Hey, what's happening? Yeah, David the Showers. special edition. The rivalry of the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. It seems like it's turned into Kansas City's basically turned into a divisional opponent, and we've played them every year since 2020. Sometimes twice a year, depends on, again, the playoffs and our 0-4 record against the said Kansas City Chiefs. But it'll continue, as you can see behind me, the dismantling of, I still call it Rich Stadium, Highmark, New Era, Ralph Wilson. It was Bill Stadium for a short cup of coffee a handful of years ago as well. So, as you may have known, yes, the deconstruction of said stadium has begun. They're hoping to wrap this thing up by spring of next year. A lot of memories in this place, as well as Bills Chiefs. Yeah, you know, old AFL rival from back in the day. Again, we've played them every year since 2020, whether it's regular season or in the playoffs. As a aforementioned 0-4 in the playoffs against the Chiefs, whether it's here or at Arrowhead. But yeah, it's been a fun rivalry. I mean, the fans are intense. We all know that. Bills fans, Chiefs fans. I mean, two of the best tailgate cities in the league. And it'll continue in 2026 across the street at Highmark, the new Highmark, not the old Highmark. Because I think people were under the impression that because this stadium had, fell behind a few times putting it together, that we were going to be playing games in this building. I kept telling people that contractually it wasn't happening, and now the proof is in the pudding that it won't be happening. So, Bills Chiefs, Mahomes. Coming off an injury, whether he's ready at the beginning of the season, we'll find out. The season, as most of you guys know by now, the schedule release is Thursday. A lot of it'll start trickling out as early as Monday. So we'll know. We should know a few games by Thursday who the Bills are playing. If not most of the schedule, we'll see how many primetime games both teams get. Again, I think they're basing it on Mahomes' recovery as far as the Chiefs go. But the rivalry is fantastic right now, and I think it'll be nothing short of that as we roll into 2026. Again, with the health, you don't want to see anybody get hurt, especially quarterbacks, especially Mahomes. There's things you want about him. Yeah, of course, he's enemy number one in this town, but as a player, you got to respect the kid. He could play. 17 here can play. It's a great rivalry. Again, it'll continue for the unforeseeable future. So I just want to give you my 2 cents on Bills Chiefs. Again, it continues in 2026. I look forward to that, and them coming back to Buffalo. How the balanced schedule, because everybody's like, why would we kept playing in Kansas City? Well, now it's the flip. Now Chiefs will be coming to Buffalo. The last 2 years as well as this year, and I think one more next year, and then it flips again. So I don't know the formula of that. I don't really care to know.
I agree. This is one that I talked about, Manning against Brady. This is the Manning against Brady of the current era, because Mahomes being Brady, Manning being Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen hasn't yet beaten Mahomes in the playoffs, and I think there'll be a point where he will, law of averages. But at the moment, it is a kind of similar trajectory. The two, I think you could argue, the two best quarterbacks in the league. Certainly 2 of the best 3. I think the top 3 is kind of unanimous. You could have Lamar Jackson 1, 2, or 3, but I think these
He's a running
two.
Back, isn't he? He's a running back, he ain't a quarterback.
Don't start that one.
Also cannot do it when it matters. He ain't in any conversation of top 3.
Nope.
In the regular season, I think his playoff credentials, a bit like Manning's until he finally did it. Manning for years was seen as what Allen's seen as, what Jackson's seen as. Manning was seen for years as a guy who was amazing in the regular season and couldn't do it in the postseason.
Yeah.
But then, took one game and it changed everything. And he made, I think, 4 Super Bowls?
I do genuinely believe that he will do it at some point, Josh Allen. Like, not Lamar Jackson, but Josh Allen, I feel, will do it at some point.
I agree.
He has to be about the Buffalo because you know the rules. People in Buffalo and the Buffalo Bills are not allowed nice things. You know, I don't make the rules. I just enforce them.
Because they'll jump through.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. But he has to move away if he's going to do anything because unfortunately, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Well, they just need to give him some actual receivers for once.
Wow. The draft could change all that. We are recording this, and it will be released weeks after draft ends. But I think, the Chiefs, I think, will get weapon. I think the Bills, the same thing in that first. There's a lot of good receivers in that first round. And I do believe, unless the Chiefs absolutely smash it in the draft or they get lucky with scheduling, I do believe that it will be Allen or Jackson in the Super Bowl. Whoever wins that game is up for debate. But I think this season feels like their time. I think I said this last year as well, but I think this year, with the Chiefs sort of in a little bit of rebuild, a tiny bit of, Kelsey not the same player, all that stuff attached.
He's busy planning a wedding, mate. He's busy planning a wedding. He's got a wedding to think about. Doesn't need to be thinking about.
It is a lot easier to plan the wedding if you don't have to worry about paying for it because your missus is a billionaire.
Imagine being possibly the greatest. Imagine being the greatest tight end of your generation, possibly bar Gronkowski, and
you still give him spending money off your missus.
Still basically, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
The world's richest house husband, would you say?
Yeah, by far. Yeah.
And of course, the 100 million that he's getting from Amazon for New Heights probably isn't doing too badly for him either. Let's be honest about it.
And don't forget those COVID vaccine adverts. Don't forget them.
Very good point. Very good point. This is it.
Well, I'm gonna try and pick my last one, and I've got a few here. I'm torn between like a history or like a location, but the one I've got location-wise, and it's been a bit of a one-sided affair. I might get into that later on in my honourable mentions. And I got two I'm still torn between. One it's tough. Maybe Cam might have this last one as his last pick might be that. So I'm going to take a risk and hope that he has got the other one saved up, stored in his list of teams. I'm going to go with Packers Vikings because I love the NFC North. And I kind of feel like there's one I've not thought of. I've not said that I was torn between. If I say it after this, I'm happy to change it around if you feel this game is more of a rivalry. But I just feel like, again, it's the history of the two teams. The teams hate each other. Obviously, I think Packers hate the Bears more. But I think the Vikings and Packers, you think about the kind of what happened when Rodgers went, not Rodgers, he may do, when Brett Favre went to the Vikings.
Yeah.
All that.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
That's got to be one of the most boneheaded plays I can think of in that moment, whether it's the call from the head coach, whether it's Favre's decision to throw the ball in that area. They could have ran it and taken a field goal. Like the announcer said, it's just I'm so glad I didn't watch it live because if I watched it live, I would have had my remote at the TV. Even though I don't dislike either team or either way, I could when I later on saw what happened a few years after it happened and I came across it, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. But these two teams been around since 1961, this rivalry. It's very close in proximity between the two teams geographically as well as the kind of the division they're in. Iconic teams, particularly the Packers. I think you get a Packers-Vikings game at US Bank Stadium. The skull's being done all around the stadium. You got the horn. What's not to love? What's not to love?
Hi, I'm John McDonald from the UK and I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan club. I'm here to tell you what the rivalry between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers means to me. This is a very personal rivalry to me because this is where I became a Minnesota Vikings fan. In 2009, the championship game between the New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings, I was watching it in a pub in Canterbury. And in the garden, there were some Green Bay Packers fans burning their old Brett Favre jerseys because he was playing for us at that point. And they didn't like that. And I said to myself that night, I want to be everything that is not that. And that night, I became a Vikings fan. And I've never looked back since. It's a very personal rivalry to me. I hate Green Bay. No, Pack, no.
Yeah,
I think it's actually...
I probably didn't think of this one too much, but I think it's probably because I have a little bit of a sort of soft spot for both teams. I don't have any sort of ill feeling towards either of them. I actually quite like both of them, which probably made me think that it wasn't as big of a rivalry as it is.
But I hate the Vikings. But
yeah,
that's another issue.
You can't hate the Vikings. Vikings are like the least hateable franchise in the NFL.
Well, do you actually know? I disagree with that. Actually, I love them because they took Kirk Cousins off our hands. So do you know what? Thank you very, very much indeed. But you know what? Actually, I actually think yes, the skull chants are great, but I just think there's something special about going to that shithole in Wisconsin. I really do. Like Lambeau Field,
it's cold and snowing, and you can see everyone's breath as they're running out on the field. It's nighttime and it feels bigger. Like don't get me wrong, it's an unbelievable stadium in Minnesota, but
Green Bay's a dive.
There is something about old school outside cold football.
Green Bay. Look. I think Lambeau Field is one of the greatest. It is possibly one of the greatest venues in North America for football, and like it's one of the greatest venues for sport in North America. But my God, Green Bay's a dive. It's not great.
Yeah,
it's really not. But it doesn't matter because if you make the pilgrimage, and it is a pilgrimage to Lambeau, it is a pilgrimage to go into the frozen tundra, and I think that game in particular, like you say, under the lights at Lambeau Field, there's it just feels big time when you hear that, especially if you hear the NBC Sunday Night Football intro and it shots here to it's just I've got chills. I've got chills, especially when it's that game. There's been a couple. I think there's been maybe one or two occasions, week 17 or 18 for the division, Packers Vikings on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
That gets your hairs on the back of your neck standing up. It's just such a great shot.
Oh, it's literally the best stadium in the league, in my opinion. And I remember when I went there. Of course, you can't.
Whoa! FedEx Field's still on the list.
He said best.
Oh, what? Not hey, it might be a shithole, but it's our shithole.
It's literally a shithole. It literally rains shit out of the out of the
ratings can't even
system.
The ratings can't even stand up without having to put fucking tape on it or a bit of tape wire on it. Jesus Christ!
I actually think there's two stages. In my opinion, I dislike more than FedEx. I think actually it's a bit underrated, FedEx Field. I don't think it's as bad as people make out. But
it is.
Field,
it really is.
No, when I went there, I thought it was great. I had a great time at FedEx. It was sunny. It was fans were loud. There was a great color scheme around. I really enjoyed FedEx Field. I was going into it with a little bit of like, this is going to be shit. This is going to be bad. Actually, I think it is.
I say that as a Commanders fan, it's awful. I can't wait for the new stadium. But hang on, what's the two? Yeah, what's the two ones you hate more then?
I didn't enjoy Bank of America and Carolina at all. It did rain a lot. Maybe that had a negative impact, and I had a really dodgy Airbnb experience. But but no, I didn't think it was. I mean, I should have watched it in a day game because you get the architecture, the skyline going around it.
Yeah.
And I think for this disappointment, this is to shock a lot of you. I really didn't like SoFi Stadium at all. I thought it was really underwhelming. There was no character. It was just it felt really soulless. Obviously to look at.
It's one of those like it's an amazing feat of engineering, but there's like 3 home fans and it just doesn't quite do it.
Although the one thing it has though, it did host, in my opinion, the best ever halftime show. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent.
No. It's great. It's a great halftime show. Don't get me wrong, but hey, you can't beat the boss. You cannot beat Super Bowl 43 and the boss or Shakira and J-Lo. That's a great one.
Immediately my head had gone to Shakira and J-Lo, but that might say more about me than anything else.
Yeah, and me as well.
Respect on that one. That's all I'll say. But the Lambeau Field, I remember when I went there, I had to get a flight from Chicago to Green Bay, and when you're on this flight, literally everyone there was Packers and Titans fans and neutrals like me. No one, there's only one person on this whole flight that wasn't going to the game, and I think they got done before the flight. They were crying their eyes out. I think they got done before the flight. I think they spent the whole flight just crying. It was pretty awkward. But you get on the plane and you kind of, when you get towards it, and you can then see Lambeau Field in one of the windows. Everyone in the plane just crowded around these windows. Everyone just moved to the one side of the plane because it was such an amazing view. And then when you get there, aluminium seats, real old school, incredible. And I think Lambeau Field, is for me the best stadium in the league.
It's one that I've said to you, haven't I, Cam, that we need to, even though we're not Packers fans, never will be, but it is somewhere before it eventually gets knocked down, unfortunately, because it will do, because it'll have to go. Same with Soldier Field. Yeah, I do. I really do.
The fans over
yeah, I just think that eventually it will go. It's the same with Soldier Field. Eventually it will go.
They can't.
No, I agree with you. It can't, but I think it will, because it has to, in order to keep up with the development of modern day stadia.
That's the thing, isn't it? There's so much money being spent in other places on stadiums that are just spectacularly good feats of engineering and experience when you're there, in terms of actual, not the experience of the fans and the what you want, the back and the forth, but the feat of engineering that the stadium is, and what people want from games now. They want that hospitality side of things. They want all that sort of thing. I think some of these great old stadiums, unfortunately, we do lose over time.
Yeah,
I am not. I would still have Highmark. I would still keep Arrowhead. I would love to keep all these stadiums as they are. Cam, you've got the honour of having the final nomination.
I get the final one. Right, I'm going to throw in a couple of honourable mentions then, seeing as no one else is to pick after me. So I can throw in a couple of ones that I nearly picked. So I think the one Jar was thinking of earlier when I was talking about the Broncos Raiders one is the Raiders still, but with the Chiefs. Going back to 2020 when they did the victory lap round Arrowhead and then got beat in the next game. That was one that was on my list. Other ones on the Rams Niners kind of feels like a good rivalry game, but again, the fact that the Rams stadium is generally full of away fans sort of spoils it a little bit. It's not quite that same back and forth. I think Bills Dolphins, one for you, Andy, that I think is probably one that could be up there. Browns Steelers was another one I had on my list, just going back to Myles Garrett smashing people over the head with a helmet.
If we hadn't picked Steelers Ravens, if you wanted to put the Browns and the Steelers in there at that point as well, I wouldn't have an issue. But obviously, because of what happened with the move,
that's it.
I have to go with the Ravens, I think. Yeah.
But unfortunately, and I'm going to be probably slightly controversial here by going back to my own team again for the final one, because there's no chance you're getting me on a rivalry matchup without talking about Eagles Giants. Miracle in the Meadowlands 2, Deshaun Jackson running around with the ball until it's all zeros, and then the celebrations that followed on the punt return. It's one of those games that every year that I look forward to. I had it the last couple of years where we rested players against the Jarleth's Washington football team, as they were, I think, that season. Before
they were, yes. Yeah.
And it meant that the Giants missed out on the playoffs because we got beat. We went and won the division. No
one deserved to win the division that year, though. Nobody did.
No,
so I wouldn't worry about
it is one of those games that it's big rivalry, it's talking shit, it's absolutely just giving it each other, and that's my final one.
Yeah. I think just going through honourable mentions as well, there's a lot of Cowboys games in there for me. Cowboys Packers deserves to be up there. Packers Niners deserves to be up there. I think they're both absolutely brilliant. And again, I would say I would love to pick Commanders Cowboys, but I just think that because I think it is a massive rivalry game. But the reason why I'm not going to do that is because I think that the Washington side of things has just become a little bit one-sided, i.e. shite over the years. So that's why I actually don't. Out of all of the teams in the NFC East, I hate the Eagles the most, ahead of the Cowboys. I'm not just saying that because it's you. I genuinely hate the Cowboys.
I probably hate you the least in our division,
but I hate you the most.
You've just been irrelevant for so long.
No, I get that.
And that's not me trying to have a dig. it's always felt like the Cowboys and the Giants games have been bigger. The one that I just mentioned then as well, on honourable mentions as well, which I meant to, Patriots-Jets is one that I very nearly picked as well.
Is it though?
But again, it's been so one-sided for so long that...
Yeah.
That was one I was
Steelers again. Cowboys Steelers as well deserves a shout out because that game's that whenever them two meet, there's always the history around it as well. Possibly
again,
as well,
Raiders in recent times has been fairly meaningless.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I had Pats Jets. I think because of the kind of the Boston against New York thing.
I get that
rivalry. My girlfriend's friend's husband went to America as a not knowing anything about American sports, and he wore it was like a Red Sox hat and like a Giants jersey. It was something where he wore a jersey and hat of both cities, and people said to him, "Well, you just can't do that." And I think as well the fact that they're in the
how to get completely battered in 10 seconds in American sport.
Oh, I don't know how he made it live, but I think the accent might have helped. But I think as well the fact that you've got division rivalry, that element for New York against Boston, the fact that Belichick was there for 2 days and goes on to coach the Patriots, draft Tom Brady and win all these Super Bowls. There's always an element of what ifs with Jets fans. I think that's one I definitely was thinking of. The one I was really torn between was Browns Ravens, because the Ravens stole their team.
Yeah.
Then I'm very happy to have that one in instead of Packers Vikings if you feel it's better. But other than that,
I was going to throw in, I had one more, which was.
Same. I'll let you go first.
I was going to say it was Colts Titans, and the infamous McAfee draft moment. But you could feel it just in that moment, the sort of the hatred for the Colts from the Titans fans with that draft in Nashville. But I don't think it was enough to take out any of the others that we've picked so far.
I've got two more historical reasons, both involving the Raiders. Raiders-Steelers, purely for the Immaculate Reception, because them two still hate each other from that. And Raiders-Jets, the Hardy Bowl. When Namath was playing there in the 60s, in particular, 60s and 70s, boy, those games were bad. Those games were like there was like their limbs lost in the Raiders-Jets games. They were massive.
Yeah, I mean the only one I thought of maybe was Falcons against Saints. The kind of rivalry you have there. South, Mike Evans against Marshall. I even went to I can't think whether there was a diner or a restaurant where there was a sign saying on the front in New Orleans, most Mike Evans are welcome. So I think that shows maybe the hatred they have. And we have, if you get Saints or Falcons fans on, I've had them on the show before, their almost hated team is the other team. It's to kind of, like counted with his, not enough to put it in, but it was definitely one I thought of. But there we are. In no particular order, our 10 we have to pick from are Bears, Packers, Cowboys, Eagles, Niners, Cowboys, Colts, Patriots, Steelers, Ravens, Packers, Vikings, Broncos, Raiders, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Giants, and Seahawks, Niners. Now, to try and help us get this top 10 from 10 to 1, we're each going to pick a game that we've chosen ourselves as nominees that we feel should be in the top 5 no matter what, and one game we're happy to sacrifice being in the bottom 5. Cam, I'll let you go first. Give me one for each.
So, has to be top 5, Eagles, Cowboys. I think that one, for me, just has to be in there. So, with that being said, I'm going to sacrifice my final pick, which was Eagles, Giants. I don't think I can make a case for putting both of them in there.
Okay. Jarleth?
Yeah. I'll sacrifice Colts Pats, I think, because whilst that is a rivalry, that I think that is one of the rules of that's more of a personal duel rather than the two teams hating each other, but I still think they do. I'm trying to think of which one I picked again now, because we've gone through that many games.
Oh yeah, I was struggling a little bit with that.
So you went for Cowboys, you went Niners, Cowboys, and you went Steelers, Ravens, and then you went Bills, Chiefs. That was it.
Yeah. In that case, then Niners, Cowboys has to be towards the top 5. There's history there. There's like I say, the modern day rivalry. They're still there. they're probably two of the best sets of fans in terms of travel, not in terms of being actual fans of the team, but in terms of the way they travel. I think that they're there. So, and there's just that history between the two. I like history, so I'm going to put that one up there.
Fair. Well, I'm going to keep Packers Bears in my top three, in my top five.
As you should do.
Yeah. And then bottom five, I think because it's got the lack of history, maybe more than the other two, even though they're probably two good teams right now. I think Seahawks Niners, I think just because it's not been around as long, there's not been as long a time when they've both been good, both go for stuff. So yeah, I'm going to go for that. So that means a bottom three. I think these will be a bottom three. I'd imagine Colts, Pats, Seahawks, Niners, Eagles, Giants. Let's try and get them between 10 and 8. Who we feel.
I'll start Colts, Pats out of those two games because that isn't a divisional game. Colts, Pats has to be 10, in my opinion, because the other two are divisional games. So that automatically puts them on a pedestal for me, at least, anyway.
Yeah, I'd go Colts, Pats, 10, 9. I would have Seahawks, Niners, and then 8 for us against Giants.
I'd swap those two. I'd swap those two around. If the group agrees, then that's fine. But I'd swap those two around purely and simply because I think that the Seahawks Niners is more relevant at the moment than Eagles Giants because Eagles Giants is very one-sided. It feels like at the moment for me. So that's why I'd probably put Seahawks Niners just ahead of them because they always seem to be fighting for divisions. They always seem to be. They always seem to be fighting towards the top end of the playoff place, whereas the Giants, certainly for the last 10 years mainly, have basically been irrelevant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, I kind of think it's kind of whether you view this are these the 10 best NFL rivalries or the 10 best rivalries of all time? I think if it's of all time, I think you have Eagles, Giants above.
Yeah, okay.
But I think if it's going to be top 10 rivalries in the league, so yeah, maybe if it's all time, maybe we put Seahawks Niners 9th.
Yeah, in that case, then do that. I've got no issues with that. No problem.
Okay, so that's our 8, 9, 10 sorted there.
So we've got 4 here that we've got 4 here that we 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we've got 4 where basically they're not ones we've chosen to have in the top 5, bottom 5. So
4 to 7.
Yeah, we've got Bills against Chiefs, Steelers against Ravens, and we have Packers Vikings, and also Broncos Raiders. Now, I don't want to be mean here, Cam, but maybe I'll put Broncos Raiders 7th.
Yeah, I agree. No, I was
I'm happy with that.
in my head. I was putting it there as well, so that was unanimous. That was easy.
But then is Colts Pats more of a moment thing? Well, I don't know because that you could argue that could that be next because it's more of a kind of a short period in history, whereas you think about like Packers Vikings the other one, Bills Chiefs the same thing. Yeah, do we go by because obviously Manning Brady the greatest quarterback?
Yeah, we had that at 10, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, of course, we did. Yeah, we did. Sorry, my bad.
Sorry.
So yeah, we got Bills Chiefs. I feel you got Bills Chiefs, Packers Vikings, Steelers Ravens. I think Steelers Ravens has to be 4th. I think
100%.
Yes, I think that's number 4 as well.
100%.
Ravens 4th. So yeah, we got Colts. We've done Colts Pats. We got Broncos Raiders, Bills Chiefs, and Packers Vikings to choose from.
So yeah, so Broncos Raiders 7th.
Steelers Ravens 4th. I would go Packers Vikings 6, Bills Chiefs 5, but that will tell you exactly what I think should be number 1.
I think I would put them in that order as well, to be honest.
Because I think that Bills Chiefs rivalry is that it's so new, but I think that could become a rivalry for the next 10 to 15 years. Here we go with history and then put Packers Vikings. Yeah. Do you think because Packers Vikings will always be massive? No.
I think Packers Vikings above it, but if you two think it's a way around, then I'm outvoted. So
I'm only saying the Packers Vikings should be number 6 because I can pretty much tell you what I think is going to be number 1.
Fair enough. I'm hoping you're going where I'm thinking you're going. But that means we have got the 3 to pick from: Niners Cowboys, Packers Bears, and Eagles Cowboys in no particular order. That's the 3 we got to try and pick as to who we think is 3rd, 2nd, or 1st. tell you what we could do. We could each pick our top three. Maybe if there's one that gets the most votes for each one, maybe we do that. Would that work? If we both, if we,
I think we're pretty much going to be unanimous here, in my opinion, anyway. So third for me, we'll probably go San Francisco, Dallas.
Yeah.
Second will be Philly, Dallas. The all-time greatest rivalry. It will never be beaten for me. Packers, Bears, number one. Book it. Any day of the week.
That's what I think that's mine as well. I think Packers Bears for me is the undisputed GOAT in my opinion, and I think Eagles Cowboys is massive as well. I think they're all big, but I think I think I'd go with Cam. Do you agree? I think I'd go for the same as you, Jarleth.
I certainly think third place is Niners Cowboys. I am trying to take my Eagles hat off for a minute because for me, by far and away ahead of everything else is Eagles Cowboys. But I do think I will bounce the group and put Bears Packers there because it's an incredible game. Like
the history around it, mate. There's so much history around it. It's the oldest rivalry. The two teams. I know Philly and Dallas can't stand one another. I get that, but there's just so many magic moments in that rivalry, and in my opinion, still the best division in football in terms of pure rivalries because those four sides. Lions, Vikings, Pack, and the Bears, all four of them have always been at a similar level for so long. I'm not saying they've always been good. I'm not saying they've always been shite.
Yeah, it's always been.
But they've always been. Those games are always so competitive, and I think that's why, as much as it's painful, because I want an NFC East rivalry at the top because I think it's just an absolute mess at times, but it has to be for me.
Yeah,
it has to be.
I totally agree. And we have our top 10 then. So going from 10th to 1st, our list is 10 Colts Pats, 9 Seahawks Niners, 8th Eagles against Giants, 7th Broncos Raiders, 6th Packers Vikings, 5th Bills Chiefs, 4th Steelers Ravens, 3rd Niners Cowboys, 2nd Eagles Cowboys, and 1st, our number 1 is the Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears. And we will, once again, as we always do, put a social out, a graphic of our top 10, and feel free to let us know what you think of the list.
Tell us why we're wrong.
Exactly.
That's the easy way to do it.
Yeah. But that is the end of the episode. So, first of all, Jarleth, Cam, great to have you on.
Always a pleasure, mate. Have a good
any time you want.
Yeah, have a great off season. Can't wait already. Bring it on. Schedule release is coming soon.
Mate, the draft first. We've got the draft next week.
Draft day. Schedule release. Then you think football's coming back. Here we go.
If anyone is listening that's working on the schedule release at the moment, please put the Eagles at home in the middle of September because I want to go while I'm in New York.
No, surely you want to go to the shithole in New Jersey. Surely you
No, I want to go. I want to jump on the train down to.
Oh, okay. I thought you were hoping that it was going to be like Giants at home.
No, I've already got a free pass from the wife that if the Eagles are at home, we will be getting the train down to Philadelphia and watching it.
Unreal. Love to see it.
That'll be so good. Well, this podcast will be released probably when the schedule's out. So right now, you'll know whether Cam is going to do that game or not.
Yep. Or whether I've got to go to MetLife and see some other trash.
Met shite. Here we go.
Well, that's for the day. I think MetLife is good, but I think they're all good. To be fair, I've got not many I hate, but if you do get to do that, Cam, then obviously have a great time and hope you enjoy it. And hope you guys as well. If you've seen the schedule, hope you get the games you want in the locations you want, and let's hope for a good season. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast with, as ever, your host today in Andy Davis, with our guests in Cam and Jarleth, and we will put the link to their cricket podcast in the description to the episode. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.